gentlemen, please take your seats. And we ask for your attention so we may begin the program. Good evening once again. Welcome to the 6th Blair County Sports Hall of Fame Induction Dinner. Again, I'm your MC, Stan Savern, MC in this case standing for minor celebrity, very minor. I'm pleased to have been invited back. I thank the committee. I have been at all 6, which once again proves that not one man can bring a program down. So thanks for the re-invitation. We've got a fun program for you tonight. It's a big night for the 5 gentlemen who will be inducted tonight. And as you already know, we've got a blockbuster speaker with which to close the program. And we will keep things moving, I promise you. Mr. Vitale has a plane to catch and a basketball game to announce. Yes, there are still basketball games even after Arkansas. That'll be tomorrow. It is my pleasure, initially, by the way, when I first started doing this in 1987, I didn't need these. Our first presenter was a teammate of Tony Georgiana's. Teammates at Altoona High School. That wasn't enough for them, though. They had to continue. They both went to Catawba College in Salisbury, North Carolina. Fellas, that's my wife's hometown. Not that it means anything, I just thought I'd pass that along. She sends her regards. Not only were they teammates at Catawba College, they were roommates, as if they weren't sick of each other enough. And even after that, after graduation, they went on to become head football coaches at a high school in Delaware. These gentlemen are friends for life and have been. Here to present Tony Georgiana, Don Hanley. Don?
Steve, I'd like to thank you. I've enjoyed everything on this. For all these gentlemen up here, the inductees, it's been my pleasure to either know of them or know some of them very well, which is great for me. I'm very proud to be the presenter for my friend Tony. From 1937 to 1960, our lives were very intertwined. What he did athletically, which you have in the books, I followed him from year to year, step by step, on every one of those accomplishments he did. Besides that, I got to know Tony as a man, and the bond between us grew very much. Our relationship started in 1937 and 38 as members of the Altoona High School football team. It was at this time, or during this time, that I got to realize my friend is 145 pounds of dynamite and moves that coaches don't teach. Speaking of 145 pounds, I had a smile off and on during the years that we were together when he would make the comment, "I'm going to get back to my high school weight." He never quite made it. Then from 1940 to 43, as Stan has mentioned, we were both off to Catawba College. How it all happened, I think we have to thank Sis Dignas. But we ended up going to Catawba together, and for those 3 years, as Stan mentioned, we were teammates on football and baseball, members of the teams, and we also were roommates, and we were traveling partners, going back and forth from Altoona to Catawba. It was easy for us back then because both of our parents worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad and we rode the train. Now, from 1943, of those 3 years that we spent there at Catawba, the highlight, I think, of Tony's 3 years was in 1942. He had a banner year that year. Now, it's just too bad that he never was able to see the year of 1943 because we were both taken into the service. It wasn't until 1946 that we got back together again. At that time, I lost him as a roommate. He married a dear lady named Eleanor, whose friendship I will always cherish. Now, it was tough for Tony that time because I was back there with him, and you don't go 3 years in a row of football and then you take a vacation for a couple of years and come back to it. But my friend was up to the task. He ended his college career by being in the first Tangerine Bowl in Orlando, Florida. We won the game and Tony scored a touchdown. Then from 1947 to 1960, as Stan also mentioned, we ended up as coaches of the boys in Lewis High School, Lewis, Delaware. Most of you might wonder where Lewis, Delaware was. Well, Tony and I wondered ourselves when we accepted the job. But we teamed very well together. Our results prove it. And Tony, as a baseball coach, had the privilege of sending 2 of his boys to the major leagues. That was not baseball country down there. We were too close to the beach, and most of our athletes in the summertime wanted to go to the beach. They didn't want to play baseball. But he had Chris Short, a left-hander for the Philadelphia Phillies for so many years, and then later on another left-hander, John Morris. It was sad in the fall of 1960 when our coaching relationship ended. We still get to see each other quite a bit. Now on November 7th, 1987, Tony was inducted into the Catawba Sports Hall of Fame. And on November 29th, 4 years later, a testimonial was given. Some 300 athletes, family, and friends of Lewis High School attended. What made it so heartwarming for Tony and I is that it came 31 years after we separated. For these 2 tributes and for all the other things, I further think that my friend, as a man, as a coach, deserves the honor he's receiving tonight. Thank you. Where's they at? Over here? Can you get up there, George? Move stands. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Don. First of all, I would like to thank the people responsible for me being inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame. I particularly want to thank my nephew, Ralph Marasco, who worked so tirelessly to make this night a reality. And I also want to give a special thanks to my brother-in-law, Guy Luciano. I'm blanked. I'm overjoyed with this honor, not only for myself, but for the entire Georgiana family. So I accept this award on behalf of my brothers and sisters who have been so supportive of me during my years in Altoona, particularly my sisters. They were our biggest fan. While attending Altoona High School, I met Eleanor Menser. We celebrated our 50th anniversary last June. We have 2 children, Antoinette and Patricia. Anne could not be with us tonight, but Patricia and her mother are seated with the Georgiana clan. There's about 5 tables over there.
That's good, you helped me sell it out.
I did. I'm one of 12 children. Sadly, 4 of us are no longer with us. I lost my sister Liz this past January. I mention Liz because she so much wanted to be here to see this honor bestowed upon one of her brothers. The Georgiana family contributed much to the sports scene in Altoona and Hollidaysburg. It started with my brothers Joe, Andy, Eugene, and myself. We all played football for Roosevelt and Altoona High School. Andy was a baseball player and Eugene was a basketball player. I have many nephews who participated in sports. As a matter of fact, 2 of Andy's boys won the blanket for outstanding play while at Bishop Guilfoyle High School, Marty and Johnny Georgiana. Jimmy Georgiana and Marty are assistant coaches at Bishop Guilfoyle. A third, Ray Malone, another nephew, wrestled for the heavyweight championship of Pennsylvania while attending Hollidaysburg. We're being represented by a third generation. Just this past fall, Joey Grassi played halfback for Hollidaysburg. And according to Andy, hey, listen, we're not finished. There's many more to come. Altoona has meant a great deal to me. As kids, we walked or ran everywhere we went. As a result, I can remember and visualize each and every avenue from the 11th Avenue to the Brush Mountain. Altoona was a great place to grow up in. When I left Altoona for greener pastures, it was to discover that I probably left the greenest of all pastures. It would be remiss of me if I didn't mention this one last thing. I was a member of the track team. I mention this because of all the coaches that I ever had. The nearest and dearest to me was Dick Bartholomew. Dick had a vast interest he took a vast interest in me. He was very influential over my life. We communicated for the last 50 years. I was privileged to be here when Dick was inducted into the Hall of Fame. I could speak volumes about Dick, about his goodness, his kindness, and his great rapport with his athletes. But let it suffice to say, he was not only my coach, but a very dear friend, and Dick is greatly missed. Thank you.
We could get every member of the Georgiana family to donate $1, we could get that new baseball stadium built in Pittsburgh. Or at least get a good start. Our next presenter is one of the outstanding football coaches in the country. We don't hear about the Division II coaches and the great programs they have. This gentleman is the head football coach at Franklin and Marshall, not too far away from here, and has a career record of 128, 53, and 2 in a conference winner this year. He played at Syracuse University, spent 5 years with the Baltimore Colts in the National Football League, back when the Baltimore Colts were in the National Football League before they invented midnight and moving companies. Again, he's the head coach at Franklin and Marshall, and here to present Bill Iannicelli, Tom Gilbert. Tom?
Thank you. This is quite a festive an occasion, and my wife, Joanne, came up with me, and I always like driving and come to these things with her because she does all the driving. All I have to do is hold on to the wheel. Well, I'm here to present Bill Iannicelli, a very dear friend of mine. You know, Bill was born March 4th. I'll never forget that date because it's the day before my wife's birthday, only a few years earlier, 1924. Bill is age 70 now, and married Phil, Altoona, has a daughter and a son, grandchildren. Bill graduated from Altoona in 1942. He lettered in football and track, 1940, 1942. In 1942, he made second team All-State, and he won the long jump title, jumping 22 feet, 8 inches. There aren't too many people who can still do that today. And that's when you're running on grass and dirt and the pits are a little bit different. Bill started his college days at Catawba College in South Carolina, North Carolina, in 1942. However, only completed 1 year before enlisting in the Marine Corps in 1942 and was sent to Franklin Marshall College. There he lettered in both football and track. Before leaving for active duty, Bill made honorable mention, second team All-East, first team All-State, and he was on a football team that was 8-1, probably would have been an undefeated team at the F&M, but they lost their quarterback. Halfway through the season, he had to go on active duty along with a couple other players on the team. That's a different day and age than what we see today. But Bill went on then to become a second lieutenant and came back to F&M in 1947. I'm probably messing all these up, Bill, but before Bill left, he won the Penn Relays, became a great javelin thrower, and won the Penn Relays with a throw of 191 feet, 11 inches and a half. That year he went on, this is all in 1943, he went on to throw the javelin 210 feet in an AAU meet. In that meet was Buddy Young, and already mentioned Barney Ewell, and Barney Ewell ended up going on to the Olympics and won a gold medal on our 400-meter relay team in 1948. And Barney is a dear friend of ours and lives in Lancaster. So Bill went on in 1944. He went into the service. He left the season like the quarterbacks did before. He left halfway through the year. Spent 10 years in China. And then when he came back in 1947, he returned to F&M. And there he played 1 year of football and 2 years of track. Bill was a little All-American, first team. He was first team All-State. He was first team All-East. Bill also had a tryout that year with the New York Yankees. Now that's the old American Football Conference, and he met up with his old friend Buddy Young there again. He also played semi-pro football. Of course, in those days, anytime you could get a buck, you know, that's how you did it. And he played for the White Roses of York. And he did all this weighing about 175 pounds. In track, at F&M, Bill won every single event, and the two events that he did, javelin and long jump, every dual meet and tri-meet, and every Mid-Atlantic Conference championship, he won both of those events, never lost one. And he's probably the only one that can ever say that, and that's a very competitive conference. At the end of the 1 year, and he won the Penn Relays again and the javelin, and he went out to Salt Lake City for the NCAA title with his coach Tom Floyd, and back then he had to fight to get his two javelins put on the plane. They wouldn't let him in. And back then it took about 20 hours to get to Salt Lake City, where now you go out there in about 3. So that was quite an interesting time for Bill. Later on, Bill took a second for All-American status, and in 1948, he just missed by winning his third title in the Penn Relays in the javelin, coming in second and missing by inches. Bill finished 4th, missing All-American that year, and back then they only took 4 places or 3 places. Now they take 8. So, you know, Bill would have been an All-American there. After that meet, Bill went out to the NCAAs. He and Phil jumped the train all the way to Chicago, got out of Chicago, and he placed 6th in the Olympic trials. Again, they only took 4. So in Bill's day, he was one of the outstanding javelin throwers. Bill's coaching career started shortly after he competed. He went to Penn Manor for a year and then came back to F&M. His coaching career at F&M is one of the most unbelievable ones you hear. He coached track 35 years. He had 265 wins, 94 losses, 74% winning. That's unbelievable. Bill also, in that stretch, I was fortunate enough to be one of his assistant coaches. I coached football and then I helped him with track. We had an 8-year span, we went undefeated. We had 88 consecutive wins in dual and tri meets and 1 conference title. Bill also coached our cross country team, and in the cross country, Bill had 218 wins, 54 losses for a winning percent of 80. That's unbelievable. And that his record in coaching can match anybody anywhere. Bill has coached many businessmen, lawyers, but there are 2 particular individuals that went to nearby State College High School, Brian Goss and Eric Combo, and both those 2 kids earned All-American honors. Just a small insight, Bill, in his coaching career, he coached football, he coached basketball, he coached track, just about every sport in those days, everybody coached. They had no recruiting to do, so all they did was coach. That's the way to live. But in this thing, he used to do scouting. And his friend George McGinnis was also on the coaching staff, and George built his own airport over in Columbia, Pennsylvania, which is right next to Lancaster. And they used to fly to these different places when they used to do their scouting. And I called George before I came over here because he had some interesting tales. He says, we used to take off, he says, I'd have the controls and Bill would have a road map. Now he had controls, but sometimes they didn't work. And one time they were late getting to a game and the airport was quite a ways from the field, so they buzzed this cow pasture. They had to buzz the field to get the cows out of the way to land. Then they taxied over to the house and asked the lady if they could park the plane here so they could go scout the game. Try that today and you'll end up in jail. They also came back from Syracuse one time and they landed at George's airfield, and the guy taxied in right behind him, and they said, what are you doing? The guy said, well, the guy at Syracuse said, if I followed you, I'm heading to Virginia. He says, I'll follow you down to Pennsylvania, I'll get that much closer. He said he did it with binoculars. Bill Iannicelli is probably one of the most loyal guys you'll ever want to meet. His loyalty to his family, every summer I know Bill goes to Maine, he and Phil, and he used to work at camp, and he's been doing that for over 30 years. And both Phil's mother and Bill's mother just passed away here shortly, not too long ago, and during the summer they used to make that trek back and forth from Maine just to check in on the parents, and the same is true with his 2 children, and I know you just don't get anybody as caring as Bill. To his track people, dedication is something that I can remember. We used to have an old cinder track, and every time it rained, the track flooded, and if we had a track meet, who would be out there with a digging iron, digging holes in the thing? His hands would be bloody from blisters, digging holes just so the track would drain, and always walking in the track, picking out big cinders and chucking them so the kids wouldn't get hurt. I think that the biggest savior for us at Franklin Marshall College was the year they brought the V12 program to F&M. Back then, the colleges were really very close to closing their doors because they didn't have enough men. And the V12 kept the doors open at F&M, but just as importantly, it brought Bill Iannicelli to Franklin Marshall College. That in itself was one of the most important things for us. Bill had a saying. He says, you give your best and winning will take care of itself. Here's a guy that's winning all the time because that's all he does. He gives his best in everything. Bill Iannicelli.
Thank you, Tom. I think I should sit down after that. Hard act to follow. Tom was a good friend, a good coach, and never he spoke of me doing things for the track and for the track team, but Tom was just as generous in his efforts towards me, and I appreciate that very much, Tom. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame for their contribution towards athletics in this area, for their recognition of athletes in all sports. And I'd particularly like to thank the selection committee for my nomination into this select group and congratulate my fellow inductees here this evening. I think it's a tremendous honor. We follow some great individuals, and it's a real pleasure to be here and to be part of this Hall of Fame. I've been involved in athletics since the 30s and up till the present time, because I'm still officiating track and field and some swimming meets, and occasionally playing Tom a little squash. Now he keeps saying that I beat him. I did it one time, but not any longer. Tom has surpassed me, and he just keeps an old man in the game to make me feel good. Thank you, Tom, for that. Through athletics, I have been able to get a college education. I traveled this great country with track and field meets, which I was very privileged to do. Had the opportunity to take part in various levels of football. As Tom mentioned, I didn't make the pros, but I did play 4 years of semi-pro ball, and it was a satisfaction. And it was a source of income, particularly when we weren't making much back in '48. I started out teaching and coaching for $2,400, and that wasn't an awful lot. But I got my first job as a result of teaching and coaching. I was then able to move on to Franklin Marshall College, where I spent 40 years. But more important than that, I had the opportunity to meet and associate with a lot of wonderful people. Some I competed with, some I competed against. And two of the people in this dais this evening were two of the most outstanding individuals that I have ever met at Catawba College. Don Hanley and Tony Georgiana. I was a freshman, they were juniors, and they were well liked throughout the community, and you can understand why. And I'm so happy for them, because Don and I then, and Kenny Carl, who's passed away, moved on to Franklin Marshall College in the V12 program. And there we had an excellent team. Don was at one end, I was at the other end, and he was still the best team member on that field that day, and in fact that whole year. Don had to leave early because he was pulled out, and we stayed on. We did lose our last game, but it was a really good game. We lost 13-21 or 21-13 to Bucknell. No one reaches this point in life without the support of a lot of wonderful people, and I had that support from my family. Mom and Dad and my brother Paul have passed away, but my sister Grace and her family are here. And Grace traveled all the way to Catawba in 1942 to see us play football at Thanksgiving. Took Mother out to the Olympic trials in 1948. My brother Johnny, who's here this evening with his wife. Johnny was a good supporter of mine, and he was a good basketball and baseball player himself. My two children, Mike and Sue, and their spouses, didn't see much of Dad during his coaching years. That's one thing I have against coaching. You don't see your family as much as you should. I guess that's the nature of the beast. And my good wife Phil, who for 41 years looked after me, keep my scrapbooks, listened to my woes, and I had them, and kept those meals warm, and she did it without a microwave in those days. Thank you, hon. Appreciate that very much. My mother loved football. You know, they'd say, gee, your mother loved football? She loved football. She never missed a game my junior or senior year in high school. Dad come to see one game, the Johnstown game of 1940. For those of you who don't know anything about it, Brooks Kaufman stood there and watched the end from Johnstown come down, touch the ball, and walk away. Brooks had the presence of mind to pick that ball up and go. He went down to the 30-yard line with 2 minutes to go. We scored a touchdown with less than a minute to go. Vince Chuchetta, I think, scored that TD. We come out of the huddle for the extra point. The ball was gone. Fists started to fly. 12,000 people poured down in the stands. My dad looked over at my mother with disbelief. He says, "Marie, do they do this at every football game?" Thank goodness they didn't, Pop. But it was quite an experience for him. I'd like to thank our coaches, and Tony did it very nicely about Coach Dick Bartholomew, and Dick was a great individual, one of the best. We had great coaches in the football end of it, Ken Bashore and his staff at that time, and Dick Bartholomew and his staff. I was fortunate because I was able to play or take part in some sprints with Dick and his crew, and Harry Dingus, whose name was mentioned, was our jumping coach. And Harry took a greenhorn like me all the way to the state championship in the long jump, and that was only 21 6¾ inches. It wasn't 22 Tom. That was in college. But nonetheless, it was gratifying because I had failed to make the javelin throw in the trials. Took the first two to the states, and I only threw third. But I had a great coach also in Paul Adams. Paul Adams, his techniques in the discus, or in the discus shot and javelin, were as sound today as they were 50 years ago. And really, folks, we were blessed with good coaching. I can say that from the bottom of my heart. I never realized this until I was out of college and into coaching myself, that I realized what we had, and we were thankful for it. I also want to thank my college coaches, my individuals that I was associated with in college, administrators, people that I competed against, and 2 individuals that were from this area, along with all the athletes I had the privilege to coach, because without the athletes, we wouldn't be coaches. And that was Denny Zajac, who's still on our winningest mile relay team, 1,600-meter relay team, and John Schrafe, who ran the high jump for me and was on our first undefeated season. I want to thank everybody that made this night possible. Thank you all for being here, for making this a most memorable night for me and my family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here's the veritable and proverbial man who needs no introduction. Those of you who have been involved with athletics, whether you have participated yourself and competed or your children have, it takes more than just the organized sports. And this gentleman has been involved with area youth in this community for many, many years. And it's people like that who are willing to volunteer their time that make a community strong, creates a bond, and make athletics great in a community. Here to present James Rabbit Ward is Don Pendleton. Don?
Thank you very much for the nice introduction, Mr. Savini. It's quite an honor to be asked to present my friend and relative, Mr. James Rabbit Ward, for induction into the Blair County Hall of Fame, and I do so with pleasure. Among my memories as a young boy are those of watching him play basketball at St. Leo's, listening to football games, and hearing about his great feats on the track field. 2 former Altoona sport athletes, Eddie Corbett and Marty Weinstein, have often told me of Rabbit's exceptional athletic ability. He lettered in 3 sports, basketball, football, and track, 1933 to 1935. In 1934, the football team was co-champs with Bethlehem, and that year the basketball team was runner-up to Lower Marion in the PIAA. He still holds the Altoona record for the 100-yard dash on the cinder track. He finished second to nationally known Barney Ewell in the PIA 100-yard dash. He played baseball with the Victorlites and basketball with Central 5. Eddie Corbett is the only surviving teammate. Rabbit was born one 25, 16, one of 11 children. He told me of the sacrifices his family made so that he could compete in high school sports. He has also shared personal experiences which had an impact, one of which attends to the terms of human relations and sportsmanship. When his high school teammates made a trip out of town, people wanted to segregate Rabbit so that he could not stay with the team. His teammates refused this act of discrimination, and they all eventually stayed in the dormitory. Rabbit has strong family ties, and two of his nieces from Altoona lived with him at Westchester while going to college. Both eventually became school teachers, Vivian in Detroit and Maryland at Garfield School here in Altoona. In Westchester, Rabbit continued his athletic achievements. He was a track star there, and he was inducted into the Westchester Football Hall of Fame in 1987. He is known as one of the greatest sprinters in Altoona and in Westchester. He participated in the Olympic trials in 1936. He served in the Army during World War II, rising to the position of captain. He has been a member of the Westchester Rotary Club for 27 years, and he has 2 children, a daughter and a son. He held the position of executive director of the Westchester Housing Authority, from which he retired in 1978. He is always well received when he returns to Altoona for the annual Sunday school picnic, wedding, and so forth. He is a legend in the community and in the athletic arena. Tonight's introduction positions him with 2 friends of the past who are already members of the Hall of Fame, Babe Pat and his former track coach Dick Bartholomew. So it is my honor and pleasure to present Mr. James Rabbit Ward for induction into the Blair County Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Don. You did a very good job. Now I don't have to do anything. But I would want to thank those who are responsible for me being here tonight, especially my sister Louise. She has pushed for this thing ever since this Hall of Fame thing began. And finally, you have won. But as I say, if it wasn't for my family sacrificing for me, I wouldn't be here. When I went to school, my sisters and brothers stayed at home and worked so that I could go to school. That is what I'm thankful for today. I chose Westchester University over and above other universities or colleges, namely Catawba. I was told after I found out that Catawba was interested in me that I might not make it because of segregation. When they found out I was black, they wouldn't have taken me. But I did go to Westchester University, and I knew I was black when I got there. Westchester University welcomed me with open arms. In fact, I was recruited by the track coach to go to school there, and if when he found me in Altoona, he drew conclusions on me, he wouldn't have taken me because he found me in a pool room. I don't necessarily have to do the things that they did in pool rooms in those days, but the pool room was located next to a church. The 2 pool rooms, a church was located in between the 2 pool rooms. I did attend that church. Now, when I first got to Westchester, I'm sorry I'm taking all this time for this, but I'm proving a point that it wasn't easy. When I first got to Westchester, I had an interview with the head coach down there for track, and he found me a place to live. Anybody else who was drafted to play football or track or anything else naturally stayed in a dormitory. But me being black, I wasn't welcome in that dormitory. So I had to take the best next thing I could find, and that was staying with a doctor, and I'm glad I did because he was a good friend of mine. Staying with this doctor, he defended me in many ways. I decided that, all right, you got me in school, I took the test, I passed that, I found a place to stay, but my stomach said to me, ask him where I'm going to eat. So in order for me to eat, the guy said, oh, that's simple. I want you to go up those steps, make a left-hand turn, and the first door on the right is where you'll be eating. So I said, I don't care where it is, I'm going. I went up these steps, and the first door I made a turn to the right. But he didn't tell me that I was eating with the help of the college, and that there would be a petition between the black help and the white help. My reason for eating in this particular situation was because all college students who got a so-called scholarship were given a job as waiters in the dining room. And me being black, I wasn't allowed in that lousy dining room. So I had to take the best next thing I could. And that was eat in that dining room with a petition between the black and the white. And since I was getting my food for free, I had nothing more to say. I ate there for 5 years, a year after I graduated. So in lieu of a waiter's job that they usually gave to athletes, since I wasn't allowed in the dining room as a waiter or an eater, they gave me a job passing out equipment. And I appreciated it. I couldn't be found sometimes because I was busy doing other things, passing out equipment. They had to get their own equipment. But nevertheless, I was thankful to the college for having accepted me on the strength of an NYA job, and I got trust for the whole 4 years I was in school. I don't know whether I owed them at the end of the terms or not, but I went there and I was drawing $15 a month from the NYA. I never saw it, but I got my education anyhow. So when I'm saying this to say this to young black athletes today, you really have it made if you take advantage of the situations you're in now. Even when I got ready to graduate, all teachers, this was a teacher's college at the time, all teachers who were black had to teach in a segregated school. I went to them after I found out a little secret they had. I took physical education, and I found out that the first 4 in the class didn't have to leave the campus. They taught college freshmen. I happened to be one of the first 4, and I let them know it too. I'm not crying on anybody's shoulder. I'm so glad that I was able to get this education. But I'm saying that there's pitfalls put before you, and if you're not careful, you'll fall into them. But if it wasn't for the strength of my family being in back of me, I might not have been able to make it. I had also encouragement coming from people like Dick Bartholomew, who has been praised by 3 other speakers here. He was an inspiration in my life. And he too wondered why I wasn't in the Hall of Fame here. And I know before he passed that he told them that I should be here. I'm not saying that to say that somebody else put me in here. I must have put myself in here or I wouldn't have been here. But I'm trying to emphasize segregation and ill treatment of people. I went from school, after I graduated from school, I was drafted in the service. One of the first draftees in the history of the United States Army, I think. I was drafted 7 months before Pearl Harbor. I was sent to an all-black outfit. This all-black outfit happened to have the highest IQ of anybody in the whole United States, any engineer outfit in the whole United States Army. And that's a proud thing to be praised. I'm praising that because I'm proud to be a part of it. After the service, after being in the service and segregated, I was segregated all the time I was in there. Even though I went to OCS, Officers Candidate School, I was segregated there. We slept separately, we ate separately. The only thing we did was graduate together. And a lot of people didn't know we were segregated, but we got it anyhow. I did happen to become one of the first company commanders in this whole Corps of Engineers who was black. There was only 6 people in the United States Army who had the rank of captain, and I happened to be one of them. Thank you. I want to backtrack a little bit by saying my time's up. He said, slow it up. Or speed it up, whatever he said. I'm going to take my time. I forgot my train of thought. But nevertheless, I'm so happy that some of the people who were in the audience were in back of me. I want to see Mrs. Bartholomew after this meeting's over. But before I leave, I would like for my family to stand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And if these guys from Catawba come later seeking alumni donations, tell them to forget it. Time now for certainly one of the highlights of the program, as we have done over the past 5 presentations. It's the presentation of the 1994 scholarship winners from the Blair County area, and here to make those presentations, John Stoltz. John?
Thank you very much, Stan. Certainly a pleasure for me to represent the Scholarship Committee here tonight at the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame banquet. Before we get into the presentations, I've been asked by several people, what does our committee really do? We're made up of 4 people from the Hall of Fame committee at large, and just how do things work? So I thought I'd just pass along some of the things we do. At the beginning of our meetings, we usually begin shooting the breeze about the current sports topics, and specifically this year, like the success of the girls' basketball teams in our areas, coaching changes, the upcoming NCAA tournaments, and things in the professional and in the national sporting news. Once we talk about that, it seems like we kind of gravitate to the presenters and to the honorees that are being inducted here tonight, and just kind of talk about their lives and how successful they were in sports and how that was able to roll over and they became successful in life after their sporting careers were over. Just to give you a couple examples, Mike Irwin, the chairperson of our committee, was a standout at Bishop Guilfoyle High School, as we all know. from Bishop Guilford. He went on to Penn State University, where in his senior year he co-captained the football team, and that was Coach Joe Paterno's first year as head coach of the Nittany Lions. After he completed that, he's back here in town right now, and he's a very successful investment broker. Another member of our committee, Jimmy Lane, famous infielder for the Altoona High School baseball team, played many, many years with the City League here in town, and his love of sports he was able to parlay into a very successful career as a sports editor with the local newspaper here in town. Third member of our committee, Terry Langenfelder, is a legendary pitcher in the southern part of the county. And from that, he was able to parlay a very successful career, and he's currently a vice president of one of the local lending institutions here in our area. So you see that the success that is evolving, evolves from sports, carries on with the traits and the values that are picked up into the afterlife of sports, so to speak. There's a bit of a lull there in the conversation at one point in time in our meeting, and Mike Irwin looks at me and says, "Hey, Sulte," he said, "what'd you do like the first 10 years after you got out of high school?" So, "Gee, Mike," I said, "first 8 years I spent trying to get out of college." That's it. That's my shot. Neil Rodell told me that if that thing blew, that I would be inducted into the Billy Kahn public speaking club. Our first winner tonight, and I'd like to spend a little time on this too. There are 8 high schools in our community. Each of those 8 high schools forwards to the scholarship committee a male and a female award winner from their particular school. So we take those applications and review them and have a very difficult time because we feel we're dealing with the best of the best. And from those 16 student athletes, we've got to come up with a male and a female to award the scholarship to. So it is a very difficult procedure for us to follow. And just to give an example, this year, three of the applicants were number 1 in their class. There were a number of the applicants that scored over 1,450 on their college board. So just try to give you a bit of a feel for what we're dealing with here. It's the cream of the cream. Nonetheless, our first award recipient is Brian Krug. He's from the Bellwood-Annis School District. I just want to briefly give you a little summation of some of the things that Brian has done. Just before I do that, I'd also like to mention that not only do we look at their sporting expertise, but also along with that, their academic standings, their activities in the schools, and activities in the community. So we're looking for a good athlete who has a well-rounded personality. With that in mind, Brian, athletically, he participated in football and baseball at Bellwood-Annis. He won the Football Scholar Athlete Award. He's the president of the National Honor Society. He had the lead role this year in the senior class play. He's a member of the Student Congress at Bellwood. He's also the state winner of the Daughters of the American Revolution Good Citizen Award. Last but not least, he carries a 4.0 academic average and is ranked number 1 in his class. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Brian P. Krug.
I'd just like to thank the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame for presenting me with this scholarship. It's really quite an honor to receive this scholarship tonight, especially along with these 5 very talented athletes who are being honored tonight. I really like to thank them for that. And it's good to see the Sports Hall of Fame not only recognize these outstanding athletes for their past achievements, but also to make an investment in the future. I just want to assure you that I will do my best to make sure that this investment turns out to be a good one. At least I'll try. While I'm here, I'd also like to thank my parents for everything they've done to support me over the years and everything I tried to do. And I'd like to thank my coach, Coach Hayes, for everything he's done. I'm sure you already know he's a great coach. His record speaks for itself. But Coach never gave up on me. He always gave me a chance, even when I was a little sophomore, scrawny little uncoordinated kid. He never gave up. Thank you.
Our female recipient this year for the Hall of Fame Scholar Athlete Award is Jessica Ann Unger. Jessica's from the Hollidaysburg Area School District, and athletically, Jessica participates in cross country, volleyball, and track. She's qualified for the state track meet in the triple jump. She was named outstanding player on this year's volleyball team. And scholastically, Jessica participates in student council, yearbook staff, peer tutoring, and the National Honor Society. She has received the Daughters of the American Revolution Citizenship Award, and just as Brian, carries a 4.00 grade point average and is also ranked #1 in her class. Ladies and gentlemen, Jessica Unger.
Never happened to ladies first. I'd like to thank the selection committee for choosing me among a competitive field of students for this year's Blair County Sports Hall of Fame Award. I'd especially like to thank my family and my parents for their constant support and their belief in me through all my endeavors, both in school and out of school. So I'd like to thank my friends, and I am especially honored to receive this award tonight because it acknowledges both athletics and academic accomplishments of individuals. This fall, I plan to attend the College of William & Mary to pursue a career in biology and also to pursue my track and field. And also, I'd just like to reiterate, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Mr. Dean Rossi for actually coming up with a new high jump pit for this year, too. So thank you very much.
I'd like to remind Jessica that ladies first went out the door whenever the NCAA accepted the Title IX thing where all male and female sports are treated as equal. So she'll learn that when she gets to college. Ladies and gentlemen, again, one final time, Jessica Ann Unger, our female recipient of the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame Scholarship Award, and Brian Krug.
Not much doubt why Jessica was #1 in her class. Tony, looking at Brian, I now see what you were like as a 145-pounder. Can we ask the house lights to just be raised just a little bit? Can we do that? There's some folks in the audience that I would like you to meet. Joining us this evening, I want to get them up so everybody can see them. We'll ask you to stand. Are we up? Everybody light a match or a candle. All right, we'll see if we can find them. Present in the audience tonight, the head basketball coach, St. Francis, this is ladies first, the St. Francis women's coach, Jenny Praziquas. Jenny, if you'll stand, please. Wave. There you are. And given Jessica's statement, this is an afterthought. The men's coach is here too, completing his second year as the head coach at St. Francis, Tom McConnell. Tom? Several former Blair County Sports Hall of Fame inductees. 1992 inductee Tom Corbo is here. Tom? 1988 inductee, Penn Stater, former New York Jet, John Ebersole. John. Also an inductee in 1988, Bill Parsons. '90 inductee, Fredina Iffert. And 1988 inductee, Bob Ramazzotti. Our next presenter, this is just a personal opinion, is the best looking guy on the dais. Of course, given this crowd, that ain't saying much. Speak for myself, right? You saw him play at Central High School. We all saw him play at West Virginia, where he is still the all-time leading pass receiver in West Virginia University. Not Major Harris. He was on the other end. We share something in common, Mark. We both caught passes from Terry Bradshaw. You caught it with your hands. He knocked me over after practice one day, fooling around. Thanks, Terry. Mark also played in the United States Football League with two teams, most notably, however, the Pittsburgh Maulers. Had a tryout with the Pittsburgh Steelers upon graduation from WVU in 1983, and again went on to play in the USFL. Here to present Harry Clarke for induction, former West Virginia tight end, Mark Rao.
4 weeks ago, Neil Rudell called me in Lexington, Kentucky, where I live, and when my secretary gave me the message, I wasn't real sure what it was about. I've had my fair share of bad publicity, but he asked me to, would I be interested in presenting Coach Clarke into the Blair County Hall of Fame, and I took it as a great honor to be able to introduce Coach Clarke into the Hall of Fame. His introduction tonight is basically, as you read through the program, is basically football. But I can attest from the time that I was a child or as a kid, when I could start to run, when I could start to play any kind of ball, Coach Clarke was there. And the things that impressed me about Coach, and many of the people in this room understand this, but I got to lament on it. I've had 4 or 5 weeks to prepare for a 5-minute speech, and there's too much to say about this guy in a 5-minute period, so I'm going to try to highlight the things that stood out to me, and I know to a lot of other people. I doubt if there's anybody that's ever exceeded the dedication to youth and community that Coach Clarke did in his reign at Central, and as I'm sure he did at Reynoldsville and other places that he's been. I wasn't sure what year Coach Clarke came to Roaring Spring, but I read tonight it was 1965. I was 5 years old. It wasn't long after that he got a hold of me. But the thing that impressed me about it is, and I'm a family man now, I have daughters, I have a wife, I have responsibility. Coach had these same responsibilities, and I call you Coach probably till I graduated from high school. I thought that was your first name. And I really did. I think I asked my dad one day, why would somebody name their kid Coach? But that's all I ever knew. I read that in the program tonight, that's a sign of respect. I can assure you that this guy has garnished anybody's respect that he's ever come in contact with. His dedication to the community, he raised money so that we could travel to Oil City and different places in AAU and track. We had wrestling competitions. I remember times that we had 2 baseball uniforms and 2 vans, and we would play a game in Altoona, and we'd hurry up and get to another ballpark, change uniforms, right, Chip, and we'd play again. This is the kind of dedication that he has, and as I said before, I doubt that there's many people that have exceeded the dedication that he had to the Cove community, to athletics, and to the kids. He teaches you how to win. There's a thing that he says Mr. McCluskey taught him, that all you can do, or all you can ask of a kid is to go out on the field and play as hard as you can. We all expected that. Coach didn't have to drill that in our heads. We expected that he wanted 100% out of us. He also says in there, I was reading that, you know, we all got to learn that you're going to make mistakes, players and coaches. Players, as players, we knew when we made a mistake because we somehow heard the word in a loud voice, knucklehead. And we couldn't say that back to him if he made a mistake, so I don't know if he made any or not. But Coach, there's so much, and 5 minutes is not I don't have notes, I don't have anything because I really wanted this to come from my heart. You have meant so much in my life, and I know from talking to other people, and people that aren't my age, as it says in there, you've got people come up to you that are 44, 45 years old, and they still call him hi, coach. And he says that of all the fruit of his labors, 3 losing seasons, right? 3 losing seasons, that in itself tells you the dedication and the commitment and the ability that he had to get the most out of his players and his coaches. And that's another thing that I think he's always done well at. He's always surrounded himself with good assistants and good help. But Coach, you said in there that the best fruit of your labors is the guy coming up to you that's 44, 45 years old. I'm 34, I hope that classifies. And still calling you hi, coach. I think you deserve that. I don't think there's anybody, and if you have any question in your mind that anybody has any respect for you, I think we can all put that to rest. It's a tremendous honor. To me, it's as big an honor to introduce this gentleman into the Hall of Fame as it would be to be inducted myself. And with pleasure tonight and with pride, the ultimate in pride, I present to you Coach Clarke.
Thank you, Mark, for those very, very kind words. Toastmaster Stan, guest speaker Dick, President Steve, fellow inductees and presenters, and all of you guests, friends, and relatives of the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame class of 1994. As I stand here and think back since I retired in the fall of 1978, there are 5 honors that have been bestowed upon me that I'll remember as long as I live. The first was a very, very fine testimonial dinner at Central High School in December of 1978. And then 3 months later, the people in the Reynoldsville, Sykesville area, where I coached 15 years, also had a testimonial dinner. Then along comes 1986, and the Pennsylvania High School Football Coaches Association decided to start a Pennsylvania Football Coaches Hall of Fame. I, along with Coach Earl Strome, who was also a teammate and classmate of mine, were 2 of the first 10 inductees into the Coaches Hall of Fame in Pennsylvania. And then that fall, the Spinco Quarterback Club in Roaring Spring, Martinsburg, established a scholarship award called the Harry Clarke Scholarship Award, given every year to a very outstanding student of the senior class and who was an athlete. And of course the 5th honor is tonight. And I think Jim Lane last night summed up in his column the thing that I will remember about this, and I think we should. That is, he said, there's something about being honored by your hometown that is special. And I'm sure that these other inductees, as I do, feel this way, to be honored by people of your hometown or your home county. I know that the other coaches all referred to Coach Bartholomew. I felt the same way about Coach Bartholomew. Great man, and he certainly would have been proud tonight. 4 of the 5 of us up here were track and field athletes. We were talking about this over in the conference room before we came over here, and Tony Georgiana looked at me and he said, "Harry, you know, for 4 guys over 70, we all look in pretty good shape." And he said, "Do you think we could find 4 or 5 other guys our age that would be likely to engage in a track meet?" Tony said, "I can still pole vault." He said, "You can run the hurdles and the high jump." He said, "We have Bill there for the javelin and the long jump, and Rabbit can run the 100, 200, and 400. Well, Johnny Moore's standing there, and he said, Johnny Moore never ran any more than 94 feet up and down the basketball court. Johnny said, "What about me?" Rabbit said, "Johnny, that leaves you the 8 and 1600 meters." And Johnny's response was, "I can handle those," and he probably could. One of the gratifying things about coaching is the great number of people you meet. I count on my fingers friends from the officials, the opposing coaches, sports media, opposing players, parents of your athletes that you coach, and of course the athletes themselves. As I look back, I can think of so many stories about these young men that I've coached. I think every coach gets a sense of pride, a feeling of pride, when they hear of one of their former athletes being a success in life. I've had young men who become doctors, lawyers, dentists, salesmen, teachers, coaches, accountants, what have you. You name it, there's been someone in my life that has been a success. And I think you get a little feeling of pride that maybe in some way you were responsible for part of their success. I have to say this now because two of them brought their wives up. I have to thank my wife, Barbara. But I have a different reason for thanking her. In the late 1950s, we lost our photographers up at Reynoldsville. So my wife volunteered to take over the photographing movies of our games. And that was fine. We had a nice press box at Reynoldsville. 1962, we were supposed to go down to East Brady. That's a little town Jim Kelly made famous. Now, East Brady's field had rows of bleachers on both sides, 5 rows. That was it. They put a scaffold up for taking movies. So I called their coach early in the week, said, and this was the 9th game of the season, have you taken your scaffolding down? No. I said, can my wife take movies? Sure. So the day we get down there, walking the field, I look, where's the scaffolding? And I got a hold of the coach, Frank Guzman. I said, what happened? He said, they took it down, they didn't tell me, I didn't know it. You know what we did? We backed the bus in behind the bleachers on our side, and my wife crawled up on top of the bus and took movies of that game. There's so many stories. I have a stopwatch. Hey, I'm in good shape. Yeah, 5:44. Steve said I can tell one story. And like I said, I had so many that you think about. This one occurred in 1959 when we were playing our first game at Purchase Line. That's where the new Altoona High School coach Purchase Line. And it was a Saturday afternoon game, first game of the year. Now, the year before, we had lost one game. In fact, the 2 years before, we lost one game each year. So we're starting with a lot of new kids. One of the young men was a boy named Stanley Mann who was playing left guard on offense. So the game starts, and we have a couple series of downs, and Stanley comes out. Finally, he comes over to me and he says, hey, Coach, what are you supposed to do when that kid across from you is punching you in the face every play? I said, now, Stan, are you sure he's punching you, or are you just getting hit hard and blocked? Nope, he's punching me. I said, well, that official behind you is the umpire. Tell him. Maybe he'll watch and catch him and kick him out of the game. I said, but I'll tell you one thing. As sure as you punch the kid back, you're going to get caught, and you're going to be thrown out of the game. So Stanley left. The half rolls around. We're ahead 8-7. We get out in the locker room. We line the kids up on the bench, the linemen. We start to check, where's this kid playing you? Can you take him? Block him in, block him out. How can we help the quarterback? I get down to Stan, and I said, Stanley, where's that kid playing across from you? Head on me. Can you take him? Yep. Which way? Either way, since I punched him in the mouth. So this has been a joyride. And this night will make it more memorable that I had these 35 years of coaching. And again, I want to thank the selection committee for including me in this year's class. And again, I want to thank or congratulate the fellow inductees. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Coach tells me he's a big Pittsburgh Penguin fan. We'll see if we can bring you another cup in here, okay? A couple of months' time. You've heard the name Neil Riddell mentioned a couple times, not in vain yet. He, of course, works for the Altoona mayor and has been a moving force behind this banquet for years. He's the secretary of the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame. And for the first time, I believe, and this is the 6th banquet, he actually has a tuxedo on. And for that reason and that alone, and the fact he's going to make a special presentation, we want to call Neil Riddell to the podium. Neil.
Thank you, Stan. I'm sure glad when we went looking for an MC that Beano Cook was already booked. Members of the dais, sports fans, fear not. I've taken the oath of our most concise presenter ever, Billy Kahn. A quick aside to Coach Vitale. The Penn State fans in the area want to know when you're coming to Rec Hall. And the St. Francis people want to remind you about their victory over the University of Detroit in 1971. Don't confuse me with the facts. By the way, if you're looking to get out of TV and back into coaching anytime soon, the Altoona job just opened. 8 years ago, we thought it would be nice to have a Sports Hall of Fame in Blair County. Having been impressed with the job Dave Andrews did from scratch with the Rotary basketball tournament, he was the first person I called. And he said the first person you should talk to is Steve Sheets. But there was a problem. Steve said he didn't want to be involved unless he could be the president. And after 8 years, we've finally gotten the votes to impeach him. Actually, the committee accepted Steve's resignation with one request, that his secretary, Nikki Barnes, stay on board. An idea for a Sports Hall of Fame is not unique. Most of the surrounding counties have one, but none are quite like this, many not even close, and the biggest reason is Steve Sheets. His vision, his resources, and his commitment to detail have from the beginning established the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame as more than just a dinner. From the Calvin House reception, to the backdrop of faces, to the honorees' plates, to the Dickie V-like guest speakers, Steve has seen to it that our county has a Sports Hall of Fame ceremony in an atmosphere befitting its rich tradition. As Bobby Riggs, who presented Bill Parsons in 1988, stood up here and said, quote, "There probably aren't a half a dozen communities in this country that honor their athletes better than you do here in Blair County," unquote. One of the people we honor tonight has made that possible. It's my great pleasure to present the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame's first appreciation award to our outgoing president, Steve Sheets. There you go. Yeah, that's right.
Thank
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Neil. I knew I'd get one of these sooner or later, you know. I hope somebody has that on tape, too, because I can't remember Neil ever saying anything nice about me before. In fact, I can't remember him saying anything nice about anybody before. Okay, 2 minutes. I know the drill here. It has been my pleasure to serve as president of the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame since our inception back in 1986. I will continue to be active with the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame on the executive committee as well as the selection committee. I did note in the book that we've got a typo that says that I had some fulfilled dreams. I actually meant to say I had some unfulfilled dream, and that being really that we've never quite yet built that facility to house the memorabilia. There's an awful lot of memorabilia that's been offered to us, and as I look forward and still continue to dream, I hope that one day we'll have that facility. I want to thank all of you for your support through the years, and I want to especially thank Neil Riddell for all of his efforts. He talks about me and my detail. I'm not much on detail. That's what I leave to Neil, and he does a great job at it. I also want to thank my assistants, Chris Colombo, who helped out this year for the first time, A special thanks to Nikki Barnes, who's really made this event happen for the past 6 years and has done a great job. I also want to thank Stan Savran, who's been with us through all of the 6 years. Our incoming president is a person known to all Blair County sports fans, Dave Andrews. Dave's been the driving force behind the Altoona Rotary basketball tournament, and I know he's going to do a great job with the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame. Dave, would you stand and be recognized? Thank you, Dave, and best wishes. Well, this night belongs to our inductees, and you know I try to keep this thing going on time. I do want to congratulate all of our 1994 inductees. We're glad to have you with us. And thanks again to all of you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So many of the gentlemen up here, both presenters and inductees, are current coaches or former coaches, and they would all agree, and I've been around quite a few in my career, if you call what I do a career, you have to have a sense of humor. And this fella got by as much on coaching brilliance and knowledge of people as he did his sense of humor. He's the funniest coach, while intending to be, that I've ever been associated with or around. He coached at Pan American University, Oklahoma City University, and the University of Texas, during which he recorded 599 career wins. Why'd you stop?
Tired.
Go next season, then quit right in the middle. I don't know, 599. He took his teams to the NCAA tournament 8 times, and a lot of that, remember, was when there was 24 and 32 teams. He went to 4 NIT tournaments. In fact, he won the NIT as the head coach of the Longhorns of Texas in 1978. And for that, he was also named the National Coach of the Year in that season of 1978. One of the all-time coaching greats, and someone I know you're going to enjoy. Here to present Johnny Moore, the legendary Abe Lemons.
Well, I know y'all envy me and Dick Vitale. We got to try out the restroom. I'm thinking about moving to Altoona. We're supposed to be on 5 minutes, and your minutes are awful long up here. I could add 10 years to my life by moving. And what do? You induct a bunch of track guys. I got fired by a track guy down in Texas. Probably the easiest sport in the world to coach. You keep to your left, get back as soon as you can. Should have coached football. You can only lose 10 at the most. I lost 10 in December one time. But it's nice to be here with John. You read the statistics in the book, but that's not the mark of a man. When you go into a place, I remember seeing the show The Sheep Man. He's putting sheep in cattle country. First thing he did, he wanted to find out who the toughest man in town was. And Glenn Ford goes and finds it's Mickey Shaughnessy down at the cafe. So he goes down, asks him who he is. He tells him, he sticks his cigar in his cup, and they have a fight, and he whips the toughest man in town. When I go to a new school, I want to find out who's running that team besides me. And when I first took the job at Texas, the first practice we had, it didn't take long to find out that Johnny Moore is the guy I was looking for. I didn't make a move without catching a glimpse of his eye. He was a true competitor. And I've tried to find out who's the next best spot, the next best spot, the next best spot, and I didn't try anything without kind of his approval. We'd go to Houston to play, and I'd tell John, I said, you need to look after these guys, John. He said, don't worry, I'll take care of them. He said, we always go out with the Houston players after, and I don't want to listen to all that trash. So I didn't have any problem with that. I'll leave some for John to tell. We had a lot of fun, played a screwy game, each person I learned off of football, one side didn't know what the other side was doing. And I just coached one guy here and kept them apart so they couldn't stay together a whole lot. And the NIT was strictly a masterpiece of ball playing. When I had the team, I told the team, I lay out the rules, I said I only play 6 or 7 guys. And if you want to play, you got to get up in that group. And John was a point guard. You don't get to be all-star being point guard. What you do, you make other people famous. When we played in the NIT, there wasn't a better player in the NIT than Johnny Moore. He's a favorite right now. If he have a night for him in Texas, if he walked back into Texas gym today and introduced him, it'd be a standing ovation saying, Johnny, 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 Johnny. He led the team. He had an option. We had a zone defense with options on it. He could follow his man through, not follow him through, double team. He set the key the key. If he double teamed, everybody else knew what to do. We played BYU with Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge makes a pass, goes through, John follows him. He hollers man for man. He comes back and we're in the zone. Next time you know, John's got him. We changed around. BYU got 54 points, and he shut out Danny Ainge. Coach is just coach. Players play. And I don't think I talked to John about what he was going to do. We spent a lot of time sitting around talking. I wanted him to finish school. He set his mind on playing pro ball. He tried out. Doug Moe said he'd never make it. He came back, I made him grad assistant. He'd work with our team, and he said he was going to make it. And I tried to tell him what would happen if he didn't make it, but he wouldn't listen to that. There was no way that he wasn't going to make it. So he goes down, makes the team. They say he wasn't a good shooter. Gervin gets hurt. John averages 35 a game. He could always shoot and always score. John would get off base a little bit. I knew he was well brought up because he was always a gentleman. You can tell the way people act, where they come from and how they treat other people around them. So I knew he had a good background. How the hell I ever found Altoona to get him is beyond me. This is not a place you'd stop and look for a ball player. But I was glad I found him. They were really close, that team was. We went to New York, and I never did have a lot of meetings. If you have a meeting, somebody's always late. It's always one of your good players. Substitutes are always there. They never miss anything. If you have a curfew, the substitutes are in at 6 o'clock. If you ever catch anybody, it's your best player. It's what you're out for that makes a difference. One of my players one time, an Indian kid, said, if going to bed at 10 o'clock makes you play good, how come we don't go to bed some afternoon about 3? I'd give the players money to eat on, and my threat was we're going to have a pregame if you play bad the next game. Back then, if you didn't win the conference, you didn't get to go to the NCAA. We got beat with Houston 1 point. I was devastated because I wanted to go to the NCAA so bad. We get a call from the NIT. Assistant coach said, we going? I said, I'm through with it. I've had it. I can't go anymore. He said, can I poll the team? So they went over and the team said they'd like to go. So I called the team together and I said, are you going to work hard or are you going to mouse around? If we're going to play to win. And I want to have every effort you got. And I'm going to sit in the stands and watch you 2 days. If you don't win, if you don't practice hard, I'm going to call them and call the game off. We're not going to play anymore. And every once in a while I'd have to jump on them. So we had a strange looking team. If you ever get a chance to see Johnny Moore, if you see him in the NIT, we had a guy 6'4", had a little fat belly. We gave him a nickname Brick. Had a guy named Krevax, a little guy that run kind of flat-footed, zero in, could shoot the ball in from any part. Had a guy named Goody. He named him Goody, had thick hands. Football players was afraid of him. He was our defensive man. Then a guy named Tyrone who didn't have any arches in his feet. White guy, slow, shot from the hip. So we played the game against Temple, and we were supposed to play Nebraska. And they tried not to play, so we went ahead and won. So we were supposed to play Georgetown University. I didn't find this out but 5 years later. And they changed it, and Rutgers was going to play North Carolina State. The athletic director told the coach at Rutgers, said, we're going to change opponents. So we found a team you can beat. Said, that team can't beat anybody. So we go up to New York. And I give them money to eat on and turn them loose. I don't know where they go. I think the black guys wanted to see Harlem. Well, I went out there myself. I was kind of interested to see what was going on. And really, I really did feel like we were going to beat anybody because I've been up there. They're hard to beat in that area. And darn if we don't go over there and beat the team by 18. And the next day we're going to play. And they won't give me any money to eat. Football had $12 breakfast. We had $15 a day to eat on. Johnny and Prevax room to room, and they carry your bags up, and they wanted $1 a bag. And he said, we don't get $15, we're not giving you any money for tip. The guys hollering at him, they're holding the door on him, they throw $1 at him and close the door. So we're going to play in the finals. They said, what do you worry about? And I said, I worry about them $6.95 eggs over there at the hotel. I never saw a chicken could lay a $6.95 egg. It's in there in a little basket, you know, the fan going on it, knitting. I said, if I ever come up here again, I'm going to leave 3 players and bring 6 chickens. So they really thought we was a bunch of bumpkins. They thought we didn't know anything about the game. Johnny made us look fast. He could go everywhere and we'd trudge down the floor. And we ended up beating those rascals. And the happiest part of all of Johnny's career was after the game, when his coach showed up. I never saw a guy so happy. I enjoyed winning, but to see the people around him was what you play the game for. And I watched him down at the Spurs. He's a good man. And Rabbit, don't worry, I saw a lot of white guys I didn't like too. Hell, my own folks wouldn't let me bang the table till I was 14 years old. I began to kind of hate them. So don't take that stuff too serious. All that stuff changed down. So I'd like to present Johnny. I could talk all day about him. Probably talk all day about any subject. But we got Dickie V come on. He's like that energized rabbit. He just goes and goes and goes. And he'll get you for that. So I'd like to present you this, John. You're one of my favorites. You're like my own son. Even though you're not playing. Can you believe he's 36 years old?
Well, one thing, you know that's a hard act to follow. I have to apologize because this inclement weather kind of got me and my throat's a little raw. So they say good because they don't have to do me like they did Frank Sinatra. But I'm going to try to keep it brief, but there's some things that I'd like to say, some people that I'd like to honor in my life. One of the greatest tributes that you can give any coach is to go on and be successful. Coach Lemons, I know y'all look at his humor and everything, his sarcasm, but he's a very serious guy. And that's one thing that he taught us. He would come in and he advocated self-motivation. You know, nowadays everybody, oh, how you motivate? But it really got to be like ragu spaghetti sauce. It got to be in there. And you know, I feel so good. I feel fortunate and blessed that, you know, he's been in my life space. I can remember coming home after, well, as a freshman, Leon Black recruited me, and we played. After the season, he turned A&M in for illegal recruiting, and then he retired. And we were all kind of concerned, and so at that point, you know, I was like, look, I'm gonna leave. My parents was like, you ain't going nowhere. I'm like, look, you know, they leaving, there's no sense to be here. And I can remember going into Darryl Royal's office, and he said, look, if you want to leave, and you can leave, but I guarantee you're going to get a quality coach. And my roommate, some of you have met Ovi Dotson, he always seemed to be in the know.
And he said, yeah. He said, don't worry about it, Junior. He said, we get Lefty Lemon. I said, Lefty Lemon? You know, so obviously I'm thinking he's just messing around. But then he came in, Abe Lemons. I was like, oh, I didn't know anything about him. But one thing that stands out in my mind is the first day of practice. He looks at us and he says, well, let's do this drill here. You know, I want y'all to think I know a little something about coaching. And we all started looking around like, oh my goodness. So we just started what he liked the term Mickey Mousing around, and he was looking for a shooter. And it just really stands out in my mind because he gave everybody an opportunity to play this spot. And we just run through a little offense going here and there, guy missed shot. He was over there, and no one said to him, he just smoked a cigar over there. And he was just shaking his head, and like, and he switched the guy around. And then I remember Baxter, he was a little fat kid he was talking about. Baxter came in, and I guess he must have settled down and hit about 5 in a row. And you could just see the expression on his face. He was like, I found one. But one thing I really respect about Coach Lemons is the fact that he wasn't the type of coach, you know, they was asking, well, are you going to run this, the run and shoot and all this and that? He was like, let me see what I got first. So that let me realize that he assessed his talent first. It's not like he's going to force you to conform to a certain system. And that was the one thing that I always respected about him as a coach. And again, I could talk about him, but, you know, it's not really about the accomplishments that I made, but this is a time to acknowledge some of the people who have deposited some things in my life. And Coach Lemons, he's one of those people who has really done, I mean, so much for me. I was back home working out after the first year I had spent with Abe, and I started reading Sports Illustrated. And there was a guy being redshirt named Brent Boyd. He was one of Pistol Pete's proteges. They called him Bullet Boy. And we used to kill him in practice and all this and that. But when I went off to school, I was very young. You know, I started school when I was 4. I grew up young. So I was forced to mature a little bit faster. But now I get 2,000 miles away from home, family. I left my comfort zone, and I wasn't taking no stuff. And Abe, you know, I did some things. I came down and the guy fired me on purpose. So I got all irate. So next time I came down, I jumped up and kicked the guy. And Abe said, man, what's wrong? That's sick, you know. And he said, you know, you don't need that. And he was telling me that, you know, I'd never become the player that I could become until I accepted some things. Some things I couldn't change, but I had to have the ability to rise above those things. So I'm reading this Sports Illustrated, and, you know, I'm like, yeah, coach, you know, I'm starting, you know, I'm 14 a game, you know. I didn't pay too much attention, but that summer, I was reading the Sports Illustrated, and it said in the Sports Illustrated how Coach Lemons and Pistol Pete's protege was going to turn Texas program around. I was like, excuse me? And it was like an awakening for me, you know, and I mean, he had told me before I left, he said, you know, if you come back, fine, but you can't come back the same way you were. If you don't want to come back, fine. And, you know, it hurt me, but it made me realize that in life you're going to have obstacles. But the key is when you fall down, you got to dust yourself off and keep going. You got to overcome, you got to adjust and overcome. And I didn't have nowhere to go. He said it's a hard time to find out tuna, but I mean, it's a great place. It's like the military. It's a great place to start. But, you know, I saw my future away from here. And so I didn't want to come back here just 2 years out into college with no future. So I had to, thank God that I had a throat big enough to swallow my little pride. And I went back. You know, and I say all that to let y'all know that, you know, my love and admiration for him is just paramount. And, you know, I just appreciate him being in my life space. You know, there's some other coaches that, you know, I need to recognize who, in anything that you do, it's important that you have a sound foundation. And I can go back all the way to Little League. And I remember my Little League coach, some of y'all know Max Gates. And I mean, he was a great coach, and he taught us at that particular time that you had to learn to play the game how you're supposed to play. Like, we felt we were little pros because we knew how to play the game. And I can remember in practices, he pitched. Batting practice, he pitched to us. And I mean, you know, we 11, 12 years old, and he throwing real fastballs, and real curves, and knuckleballs. And you know, he throw a curve and you jump out of here, stay in there, watch the seams. You know, first you like, oh man. You know, but we learned to stick in there and hit that ball. I mean, he taught us the right way to do things. That was the fundamental base that he gave us. You know, one of my favorites who really deposited a lot into my life, Coach Tony Labriola. And the thing I respect about him the most is that everybody loves a star. And it's easy to get on that bandwagon when someone's doing good. But he was the type of coach where he appreciated and he loved each and every one of his players. Even when they weren't in a good situation, he still showed you that he cared. I can remember going into his program and he was like, no, address me as sir. I'm like, look, I'm calling my daddy sir. You know, like, what you talking about? And he's like, no, it's the proper thing to do. And I learned that as long as you have good manners and you carry yourself the right way, that you could go anywhere and do anything that you wanted to do. So I always, you know, he got a special place in my heart for what he deposited in my life. I can't overlook my high school coach. Coach Levin, he told you about when we were in New York. And Coach Swag was there crying. You know, and like to me, like some of y'all don't know him, but that's funny because he was kind of tough. All right, I mean, he was a tough disciplinarian. A lot of times the parents was like, "Oh, you too rough on him. You too rough on them." I see today now that kids actually want discipline and need it. And I mean, he made us realize that, look, y'all gonna do it this way, and if you don't, there's consequences. Now he's the one. I know my voice is a little raspy, and he kind of was riding me a little bit. But, you know, I told you I was young, so physically I didn't mature with the rest of the people I was with. And my voice hadn't changed or anything, and I'm trying to call out the plays. It get loud, you know, no one could hear me. And he's over there getting frustrated because I'm trying to yell out the play. No one can hear me for not doing what we're supposed to do. And he just turned red, and he came running out. You walk around talking like a little pee-pee. You know, and I was like, man, what's up with that? You know, but, you know, he used to have all these, what I thought were corny sayings. And the thing that's funny about it is the fact that now when I look back in retrospect, those sayings, you know, I tell the team that I coach, you know, it was like he used to always say, oh, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Now, to me, that had a lot of significance because I was about 5'4", about 135, 40 pounds, soaking wet with a few rocks in my pocket. You know, so that had a lot of significance to me. And, you know, he used to just have sayings about the work ethic, you know, that there's no easy shortcut way, but you had to work out, you had to prepare yourself. And I always honored and I respect that. And, you know, I just want to thank him for what he's deposited in my life. You hunching me? Oh. No, and, but the most important people in my life is my family. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point them out. You know, I think about my pops. And even right now with my little girl, he treats her so differently, and I said, look, you ain't the guy I grew up with. I mean, he just so lenient, and it's like, I mean, she can do everything. But, you know, I realized, and they taught us from a long time ago, that, you know, it's more than just yourself. But whenever I'm out in the community, I represent myself and my family. And later on, you represent your school and your community. It gives you a sense of accountability that's bigger than yourself. And that's so very, very important. When I was coming up, my father, he really represented the discipline in our lives. And he did discipline. I can still remember some of the whoopings. You know, but it was necessary. I can remember whenever I grew up to an adult, I mean, I had to thank him because I know some of my friends who have passed on, who have gone to prisons, and I was spared that because I knew there was only a certain distance I was going to go because I knew Billy Moore was going to get on my behind. So, you know, I want to take time out and to thank my dad And hey, Pop, hi, Daddy. Y'all want to take time out to thank him and let him know that, I love him and I appreciate what you deposited in my life. Along with that, I never forget the women in my life. And the women in my life, they span 4 generations. It starts with my father's mother. We used to call her Mom. She helped raise us. And she gave us the spiritual back, the spiritual foundation that we need. And when anything's going wrong in your life, you know you can always come back to your roots. And I just thank her. She was the type of lady where people would go to her because they knew she could get a prayer through. And I mean, the input that she put that in my life at an early age. A lot of y'all know that I had gotten sick. And a lot of people, all they can see is the physical aspects of that. But the reality is there's a lot of things spiritually going on. When God has a plan for your life, devil, he's going to do all he can to get you off it. So all of that, and you have to realize that and learn how to combat that. So just in her memory, I just thank her, and I just hope that she's smiling upon us, because I'm trying to do the very best I can. Secondly, the second generation of women is my mama. I can remember, I used to think she was lying to me. She, eat them vegetables, baby. You grow big and strong. And I was the littlest, strongest thing going. But, it did pan out. I continue to believe and to trust in her. And I can remember, and there's probably some of y'all out there saying, oh, you'll never play high school ball. And I remember that. But I can remember my mama, she told me, look, baby, you can do anything you want to do. And I believed that. And I went out there, and I wouldn't take no for an answer. And just for the encouragement and the nurturing that, no one can give you but a mother. Mommy, I love you, and I appreciate you. And now the most important woman in my life is my wife. And I want to thank her for the way that she stood by me in my time of my sickness. And I mean, there's something special whenever you can find somebody in your youth and you can grow together. And she's just been there. She's a strong woman. Sometimes she can get a bit opinionated, but I'm learning to deal with that too. But to my wife, I appreciate you standing by me. We've had some good times and some bad, but it's always a comfort to know. And anybody who has any amount of success knows that behind your success, there got to be a strong woman somewhere. And lastly, for my little one, Georgiana, she represents the 4th generation, and that's the sunshine of my life. And it's just my hope that I can continue to learn and to grow and to deposit something in her life. That, Martin Luther King, he said that we all should be judged, not by the character of our content. And, it's my hope that I can continue to put something in her that she may make the rest of her family proud of her too. But as I accept this induction into the Blair County Hall of Fame, I'd like to thank you, thank Altoona, and especially my family on behalf of us. That I had someone to share it with is what makes it so special for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Beautifully done. Well, it's been a fairly quiet evening up until now. That's about to end. This man is probably singularly responsible for the remote control. Already. I've always felt that the greatest continuing sporting event we have in this country is the NCAA basketball tournament, and in no small measure, this man has contributed to elevating it, indeed, to exactly that. He's a former coach. You know him, of course, best as a TV commentator, for lack of a better description. For those of you sitting in the front row, I'd back up 2-3 feet if I were you. It is my pleasure to present ESPN's basketball commentator as well as ABC's basketball commentator. Look out, baby! Dick Vitale.
I thought I was supposed to speak on tonight, Saturday. Looks like I'm getting ready to speak on Sunday.
You don't get paid anymore.
Well, let me say this before I get started. Let's give him one heck of a hand. He's done a great job. And if I had his hairdo, I'd be a TV star. I'll tell you what. All right, sit down now. I'm the star here, so you sit down for a minute, big fella. Hey, it's really a pleasure to be here in Blair County. It really is. Heck, after you've been fired in the NBA like I was, you're just delighted to be invited anywhere. So I want to really thank you for inviting me here. My guy right here, Steve, he sees the same barber I do. I wonder if he goes for $7 a pop as well. And then there's my guy, Abe. I tell you, I said, Abe, why did you stop at $5.99? I said, I don't understand the logic of that. And I took logic at Seton Hall University. They don't claim that I graduated there, but I did. But I said, why $5.99? He said, Dick, stop being a dummy. People feel sorry for me. They wonder why I stopped at $5.99 and didn't get the illustrious $600. I know something else, Big Abe. I know you didn't teach shooting down in Texas because this guy can shoot the basketball. And I know one thing. I watched Abe shoot the ball one time. He was Brick City, USA, baby. I mean, you talk about a Brick City, USA guy. Unbelievable. My guy, Abe, one of the funniest guys in all of basketball. Give him a hell of a hand, too. My guy, Abe. Hey, and it's great here. Georgiana, I like it. Iannicelli, I love it. Are you kidding me? Who said all Italians are in the construction business? A Batali? I mean, in coaching, we got a Patino, we got a Carlissimo. I mean, it's incredible. Unbelievable. My guy, Rabbit, what you started tonight, they're having a press conference tomorrow at Westchester University to admit and to announce that they will go on probation. 55 years later, they find out they were cheating like hell, giving them another year of free food, baby. Just incredible, unbelievable. I'd cheat for him too. Can you imagine what they would roll out for him? They'd build statues, baby, for this guy. 9.750 years ago, on the kind of conditions he had to run on, that is amazing. God bless you, Rabbit. God bless you. Hey, someone asked me earlier, they said, Dick, you coached in college, you coached in the pros, you coached in high school. What is the basic difference coaching in college and the pros? I'd like to share it with you. I know we got the St. Francis coaches here. They're sitting way in the back. If they would have donated some damn money, they'd sit up front here, but that's okay. But you see, people say, what is the difference in college and the pros? I'm coaching in college, I get a job, and I'm like all of us here, the beautiful people that were inducted here tonight. You could feel the pride that they possess. I mean, you listen to Coach Clarke and Mr. Ward and right down the line, to every one of the gentlemen that stood here today. So honored and so flattered that their people have inducted them into this beautiful, beautiful Hall of Fame. A great sense of pride to be the best at what you do in life. I know in my life I was a boy, a ball, a dream, just like Johnny. I can remember back in my life going to the playground and dreaming and hoping and praying someday something positive could happen in my athletic life. It touches me when I hear John talk about his mom and dad and talk about his wife and his daughter and his family. And he talks about love, because that's what it was in life. I grew up in a family where God bless my mom up in heaven today, and my dad who's struggling right now, as I told Abe a little bit earlier, struggling in his life. But my God, I learned about love. I learned about family. I learned about togetherness. I learned about sharing. I learned about that love within a family, because we had pride in our home. And I could feel that here today. But I was no different. In my house, I had a dream. And my dream is I wanted to coach. And one day I got the chance to be a high school coach. And I found out in East Rutherford, New Jersey, when I walked in, and I was 23 years of age, and I had this thick crop of hair, and I looked like John Travolta, and you better believe it. And all of a sudden, I met my team for the very first time as I got named the head coach. We had no home court, played all our games on the road, basically. We had this little 60 by 30 gym to practice in. I found out I thought I had talent. I got the job because nobody else wanted it. I was the only dummy that would take it. And then when I took the job, I was teaching in the 6th grade and coaching in a high school. And I called my very first meeting. I can't believe it. They come walking in. And I look. There's 5'10", 5'11". Little fat Rocco walks in. He looked like my guy Georgiana, baby. I said, wow, I found me a rebounder. I said, Rocco, go up and get the glass for me, baby. He couldn't even get over a telephone book, and I had to win. And my hair started to fall one by one. After that meeting, I said, what did I get myself into? God, please help me. And then all of a sudden, in teaching, there's a rule. Never leave thy classroom vacant. When I was teaching the 6th grade, and guys are over at the high school, and word filters down that there's a 7-footer enrolling in high school. One of my players comes running over to me. He says, Coach Vitale, you're not going to believe it. There's a 7-footer enrolling in high school. I said, a what? I said, screw that rule that says thou shalt not leave thy classroom. I sprinted out of the classroom, and I ran to the high school. And I looked at this tall kid, and I said, what's your name? He said, Leslie. I said, how big are you? He said, I don't know. I said, I don't care. Sign your name. Take me to the promised land. Make me coach of the year. Make me a genius son. Hey, before Leslie arrived, if you ever seen grass grow, that's what it was like to see us play. One pass here, one pass there. I mean, it was like watching paint dry on a house, baby. We were boring, but we started to win. And then all of a sudden, I get Leslie. Well, I want you to coach for a moment. It is Atlantic City, and it's the state championship. And we're down 1, and there's 7 ticks on the clock. And I got a kid on the line shooting a 1-on-1. And I'm praying, I'm saying, God, I've been a good guy. Please let this be Abe Lemons. Please let it be Abe up there on that free throw line. So I know it's Brick City, USA, baby. And he can miss this sucker, and we can grab the rebound. And I can yell T.O., baby. And I can design the last shot, and we can win this sucker. Well, we're down 1. The kid goes to the line, and he misses. We grab the rebound. I call timeout, and now I got to design the last play. What play would you design? You're the coach for a moment. My big kid, Leslie, he has 45 of our 66 points. He has now 21 rebounds and 8 block shots. I'm no different than a 14,000 in the crowd, including my dad sitting next to my wife. He goes, oh, my son Richie, all he's got to do is throw the ball high to Big Les, and they win the state championship. Hey, the other coach is no dummy. The other coach knows the ball's going to Leslie. So we're in a timeout. I get rid of 3 players quickly. Game of basketball is played with 5. So we have a quarter of 5. These 3 guys couldn't run, jump, shoot. All they could do is throw the ball in bounds, get out of his way, and that's all they did the whole game. And wave to their girlfriends, hi. And I looked at the 3 of them, I said, you 3, follow my instructions. I mean, they look like my guy Georgiana, they look like my guy Bill, and they look like my guy Mr. Clarke. The 3 of them. Now, you think you can win with those 3 suckers in basketball? Take a look. Track, maybe. Football, yes, they're tough. Basketball, you're in trouble, baby. So I get the 3 of them. I said, you 3, follow my instructions. I said, Bill and my guy, Mr. Georgiana, and my guy, Mr. Clarke. Go to the far corner of the gym, you 3, and you know the state championship jackets, the leather sleeves, and you know the wristwatch you get state championship? You get the same one as Leslie. Do me a favor. Stay the hell out of his way, go to the far corner of the gym, and all I want you to do is yell, do it, Leslie. I said, do you understand me? They said, no problem, coach. That left me 2 players. My worst shooter. I mean, this kid, I could take him to the beach, put him on the beach, and the sucker would miss the ocean. That's how bad he would shoot. I said to him, he looked like Belafonte. I called him Belly, good-looking kid. I said, Belly, whatever you do, son, don't shoot the ball. But what a passer he was. If your hand was there, the rock was there. If your hand was there. I said, Belly, we're going to clear the left side of the court out. You're going to get the ball, 7 ticks on the clock, and with 3 ticks, throw the high lob up to Leslie, and Leslie, make me coach of the year. I want to kiss the cheerleaders. I want to dance in jubilation like they do up here in Altoona when the ladies team won national championships 2 of the last 7 years. When you think of all the success, when you think of Izzolino, baby, and West, and Moore, and all the basketball tradition that exists in this area, well, we were the same, and we had that pride. And he looked at me, and if you thought Muhammad Ali, I was thrilled in my life to meet Muhammad Ali. I met him at a Notre Dame football game, very blessed. My 2 girls are on scholarship at Notre Dame. Really blessed because intellectually and physically, they take after my wife and not me, so I'm really lucky from that standpoint. But I met him at a football game. He wouldn't remember meeting me, but I remember meeting him, and I was so thrilled. Well, remember when Muhammad was fighting? I mean, I often tell people, he could line up today if he was in his prime, and he would take, you talk Holyfield and Bo, all the same night lock, one hand behind his hand, back, and take them all. But I used to remember he'd say, give me any jive, I'm going to end it in 5. If the crowd dares to boo, it's over in 2. If you call me a bum, I'm going to knock you out in 1. Well, my guy Leslie, he He made Muhammad Ali sound like Mother Teresa. I mean, it was unbelievable. You talk about cockiness? We're in a timeout, and Leslie goes, Coach, this baby's over. He said, Coach, just get me the ball. This sucker is over. He said, in fact, Coach, do us a favor. We don't want you to get hurt here after the game. And pandemonium is going to break out, 14,000 fans. The place is going to go bananas. Pick up the gold trophy right now. Meet us in the locker room. Tell the other coach on the way out, nice try. He's Avis and we're Hertz, baby. And we're number one. And tell him thanks a lot for a great effort. And meet us in the locker room. I said, well, it ain't going to be that easy. When we go on the floor, I can't believe it. There's my 3 Boy Scouts. Just like Abe said a little bit earlier, guys that can't play always do what you tell them. They come on time. I mean, if the bus is leaving at 3 o'clock, they're at 2 o'clock with their bag. They're there. The star, he comes walking in. It's 3 o'clock. He walks in at like 3:15. Then you say, hey, guys, you dummies that came 2 o'clock, don't you understand? We're supposed to leave 3:30. He's 15 minutes early. Well, you try to lie for the sucker. But you see, there we are now, and I can't believe it. The 3 guys that can't play. My guy, Bill, my guy, Georgiana, and my guy right there, Mr. Clarke. The 3 of them in the far corner of the gym. They listen exactly like Boy Scouts, and they're going, come on, Leslie. And they're waving to their girlfriends. Hey, we'll meet you after the game, baby. And I'm looking, you suckers can't play a lick, and you think you could play. And now we go on a court. My guy, Leslie's got like everybody around him. The other coach was no dummy, so he knew that Leslie was going to get the ball. And he's got 5 guys surrounding him. We throw the ball in bounds to my worst shooter, who's supposed to dribble to the left, throw the high lob up to Leslie, and he goes like, the heck with you, big fella. You've been getting publicity for 3 years. He starts dribbling opposite him, and the clock's winding down, and our bench is cheering, and they're yelling. They're yelling, shoot it, Belly, shoot it. It's 3, 2, 1. He lets it fly at the buzzer. It's NBN. It's nothing but nylon. He tickles the twine. I sprint on the court. I hug the cheerleaders. We cut the net down. The mayor proclaims a day in our honor. And now I got to go face the media. Guys like Jimmy Lane, who they've been talking so proudly here. Guys who banged the typewriter. I had to go face the media, but I didn't care what they wrote. I had the big gold trophy. And as I stood there in a media press conference, one writer says, Dick Vitale, how could you design a shot for your worst shooter when you got the best big kid in the state? I said, you guys think you have all the answers. You're a dummy. I said, if you were intelligent, you better give me credit. I've been a street fighter all my life. I said, don't you know in that timeout that I looked at my players and I remembered back to my days at Seton Hall when I took this beautiful class in statistics and probability. And I knew that my guy, Belly, was 0 for 9. That he had a better chance of being 1 for 10 than Leslie, who was 21 for 24 at that time. I said, I told that sucker to shoot that ball, and I better get credit. Well, the next day, the headline, Vitale's brilliant strategy wins state championship. Brilliant strategy. I would have chased that sucker, and I would have broke the Rabbits record, baby. I would have caught him if he'd have missed that shot. So, you need a little bit of luck, and luck certainly has been part of my life. I go to college, and I go down to Rutgers University. Great trivia question. 1976 named the Final Four. Yes, it was UCLA. It was Michigan. And it was the school that cut the nets down, whose speaker arrived here in 1992, who, if you really had class in Altoona, and I'm really disappointed in you, Steve, and all you people, that you would have taken a collection and you would have bought the sucker a nice tuxedo instead of his red sweater, the General Robert Montgomery Knight. He cut the nets down that year. And I know he came here and spoke 2 years ago. And I'll tell you one thing, the 4 team was a school called Rutgers. And you see, I got a little bit lucky at Rutgers. We were able to recruit some great players. And then I got the job at Detroit. And when I got the job at the University of Detroit, 1971, you talk about a dream. I'm teaching the 6th grade to you youngsters that are here today, listening to these people talk to you about your goals, about drive and desire. Each and every one of these people sitting here today had one common denominator that I was able to depict sitting here at this dais. A sense of pride, but a sense of work ethic. Johnny Moore, if you trace his background, just didn't one day say, God, please make me a player. And God says, I like you, Johnny, and I'll make you a player. No, it's perspiration. It's pain. It's hours and hours of labor. It's work like you can't believe to make it happen in their life. Well, I'm now get a chance to coach in college, and I look at this committee as they're interviewing me, and they said, Dick Vitale, What would it take financially for you to be our coach at the University of Detroit? 71, I'm in the 6th grade. 72, I'm at Rutgers. And 73, I'm being interviewed for the job at the University of Detroit. And I looked at the committee, I said, well, that's easy. I'm making $15,000 a year. I'm making 11 rather at Rutgers, give me 15. They said, dummy, you got the job. We got 21,000 budgeted Catholic University, so let's hire this dummy. So they saved $6,000 off the tilt by hiring me. So I got the job because of being a dummy economically, not because of any ability. So now I get the job as the coach. And I look at the first 4 games. And the first 4 games were Cupcake City. I mean, we played I wish I'd have played Catawba too, baby. All these cupcakes in Westchester. I mean, I wanted some cupcakes, some automatic W's. And then all of a sudden it was game 5. And I began to shake. I began to shake. As, oh my God, we're playing Michigan, Michigan, the maize and blue, hail to the victors. I mean, you talk about that school, you begin to shake. One of the great academic and athletic institutions in America. But all of a sudden now, we go out and play one of the greatest games any team I ever coached. And we sprung a major upset over a great team that they had with a great player by the name of Campanella Russell. Johnny remembers him from the NBA. And now the next day I come in my office, and my beautiful secretary says to me, Coach, you're not going to believe it. The president of the university wants you immediately. I said, the president? Father Malcolm Karen? I said, you can't be serious. Now I got up that day, we were out partying all night. 6 a.m., I come rolling into my office, grab every newspaper. Don't believe coaches don't read about what they're doing. And I read every article. And when my secretary walked in and said the president wanted me, I sprinted to his office. They said, you had to kiss his ring? I didn't care. Father Malcolm Karen, I'd kiss his ring. What am I going to worry about that? The last time I got a chance to kiss a ring, I was able to go backstage at Pine Knob over in Michigan, and I got a chance to meet one of my favorite entertainers, Francis Albert Sinatra. And they said you had to kiss his ring. I walked in the back, and the sucker had his hands folded. I got on my knees, and I kissed that sucker anyway. Well, you see, I walked in, and I looked at Father Karen. I says, Father, I said, so great seeing you. He says, Dick, you're doing such a great job. For doing such a great job, I have decided to take care of you and your beautiful Catholic family. I said, really, Father? I'm saying to myself, $15,000 a year is over with. Now I get a big contract. I can count all the people in the crowd. He says, for doing such a super job, we're on the front page of the Free Press and News. You're on the news every night. You're on all the talk shows, J.P. McCarthy. For all those efforts, we're going to take care of you and your family. He said, every night of my prayers, I'm going to say 5 Hail Marys and 5 Our Fathers for you and your beautiful Catholic family. I said, 5 Hail Marys, 5 Our Fathers. I said, Father, give me a break. I can do my own praying, baby. I need some cash. I need some Uncle George Washington. Give it up. Give up the green. I want some green. He said, be patient. I was patient. And then we sprung another major upset. And he invites me to go to lunch. And I go to lunch. I can't believe it. I walk in and I look. And there's Iacocca. And there is Max Fisher. And there is Henry Ford, the late Henry Ford. All the giants in the auto industry from Detroit. And we're having lunch, and I get over into the line to get my food, and I hear the late Henry Ford say, great win the other night, Dick. I said, oh my God, he knows my name. He knows my name. Let me call my mom up. God bless her. She's up in heaven today. But my mama used to always say to me in her own Italian way, she'd say, oh, my son Ricci, you know like her your brother, and you know like her your sister. Your sister younger than you, and she's president of a publishing company. Your brother younger than you and your sister, and he does so well in computers. All you ever do is chase those guys that bounce a ball. When are you going to get a good job? So I called her up and I says, Mama, you'd be proud of me. Those people you see on TV, the Iacocas, the Fords, they know the name Vital, Mama. You'd be real proud. She said, I'll really be proud. Sending me some cash. I said, be patient, Mama. Be patient. Well, Father told me to be patient. I sit down, and Father said, didn't I tell you to be patient? Last time I gave you Hail Marys, Our Fathers. This time I'm going to give you the ultimate that we give in the Catholic religion. He said, I'm going to have a mass said every Sunday for you and your beautiful family. I said, Father, give up the green. I need Uncle George Washington. Well, the difference in college and the pros, I go to the NBA, I coach the Pistons, and I can't believe it. I look at this check, 6 figures, in 1977. Think about it. 71, 6th grade, 72, Rutgers, 73, University of Detroit, 77, the NBA. And I'm looking at a 6-figure check. I said, what is that? I'm beginning to shake. I can't believe this. I run to the bank. I cash that sucker. We were owned by this nice Jewish man. His name was Davidson. Today I read in Fortune 500, he's worth only a mere about 900 million. That's all. And so he gave me some bucks, 100,000. What's 100,000 when you got that kind of cash? I took the check. I went and cashed it. I come sprinting home. I pile in front of my beautiful wife loads of Uncle George Washington. She looked at me. She says, you know what, hon? We're devoted Catholics, but I love it the Jewish way a hell of a lot better. And that was the difference in college and the pros. He was a nice Jewish man, my owner, and I love him. Every day he sees me. If he sees me today after he fired me in the NBA, 10 games into my second year, we had a little disagreement over personnel, and I got the Ziggy, the axe. Every time he sees me, he says, Dickie, you ought to thank me every night. I said, you got that right, baby. I thank you every night of my prayers because you made my TV career become a reality. I want to say this for you here tonight. I could go on and tell you story after story. All the coaches recently were teasing me down at the Final Four. We watched Stylen Nolan cut the nets down, beating that Duke team with a great Arkansas team. You saw a sensational performance by a bunch of kids from Arkansas playing together as a team. I've often said a team is T for togetherness, E for enthusiasm, A for attitude, and M for mental toughness. And when you have those elements and qualities, like the people that have been inducted here tonight, you have winners. I firmly believe I could take the 5 that are sitting here tonight and we could go challenge somebody in some endeavor in life, whether it be the corporate world, whether it be the athletic world, we would have a chance to post the W because there's certain intangibles within the heart of winners that are so special. Well, there I am now, and I'm in television and having a blast of my life, and I can't believe it, and I'm down there at the Final Four, and all the coaches. I mean, I run into guys down there, Jimmy Boeheim, John Thompson, all the different guys, and they'll always tell me, hey, Dick, you know you're eating your heart out. You know you'd rather be coaching than working on TV. And I would tell a Patino and those guys, you guys are dummies, man. Just what the people say. You coaches are dummies. Because if you had any brains, you'd understand one thing. On Monday, I coach Kentucky. On Wednesday, I coach Indiana. On Saturday, North Carolina. And I haven't lost a damn game in 15 years, baby. I'm undefeated. But I really firmly believe this. I mentioned my mom a little bit earlier and my dad, and I heard Johnny talk about his family. I believe in the old school traditional values. I believe in discipline. I believe in dedication and determination. I believe in having a sense of pride about what you want to achieve in life. I believe about making your goals realistic and trying to be the best you can be today. If there's one message I'd like to share with you as Abe and I were talking here on the stage, Abe and I were talking about a buddy of ours that's no longer here. I'm talking about the late Jimmy Valvano. Jimmy V was something special in my life. I wrote about him this month in Reader's Digest. And Jimmy V had within him that sense of humor. He had within him a feel for making people feel good about themselves. And he had a special energy and enthusiasm about life. But Jimmy went through a tough time, and we know many people in our lives are confronted with big battles. Each and every one of us sitting here today could share a story about someone we love who maybe had a battle along their way, something tough in their life. And I think back at Jimmy and a battle he had with cancer. And I watched him with that pain, but I watched the courage, and I watched the spirit. I'll never forget the most stirring talk I ever heard in my life. We watched Jimmy last year as he came to be the recipient of the Arthur Ashe Courage Award, as Dustin Hoffman introduced me, and I was shaking to get up and talk about my buddy Jimmy V. They said, Dick, we got this script here. I said, script? I need no script. That's an insult. A script to talk about a man you love. When you love someone, you talk from your heart. You talk with feelings. You talk with a sense of pride. And as I looked at Jimmy's face sitting in the first row, in a room that was filled with every sports luminary you could think of, from right down the line, the David Winfields, the Emmett Smiths, the Jimmy Johnsons, the Lou Holtzes, the room was packed with celebrity galore, from Bill Murray to Hammer, right down the line. And as I introduced Jimmy, that day, Jimmy was in his hotel room, and he was throwing up, and he was in vicious pain with bone cancer, and he can barely get up. We had to put him in a wheelchair. But when he came that night to that banquet, he sat in the front row. Mike Krzyzewski, myself, and Joe Theismann brought him up to the podium. And as I gave him his award, I expected Jimmy to simply say, thank you. But as he started to talk to the audience, he talked about, don't give up. Don't ever give up. And he talked about how in his life, every day of his life, Learn to smile, learn to think, learn to cry, to share feelings with one another. He talked about how cancer could take away his physical abilities, but it can't take away his spirit, his heart, and his soul. And he talked about love of his family and a sense of pride and how each and every day of his life he will battle and battle and battle. And Jimmy just turned it out. It was unbelievable. The next day when I spoke to Jimmy, it was the last time I spoke to him in my life. And it's a sad day as I remember his words echoing on the phone as I called him. I said, Jimmy, you are marvelous. You touched so many lives. You inspired so many people. And it was the first time I ever heard Jimmy. As he echoed in the tears falling in my eyes and tears down Jimmy's, he says, Dickie, you can barely hear his voice. But I could hear those words till they say, Dickie, it's over, man. It's over. The sea is beating me. I said, no, Jimmy, you got to keep fighting. You got to keep fighting. And I'll never forget something else that stays with me, with Jim, and I'd like to share it with you. There was a time he and I did a game together, and after the game, Jimmy said, what are you going to do tomorrow? I said, oh, Jimmy, I can't believe it. I got to get up at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm going to speak down in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm going to give a motivational talk. I said, my God, it's 5:30, and he stopped me. He said, I don't want to hear about it, Dick. I don't want to hear about 5:30. I don't want to hear about getting up and traveling to Omaha, Nebraska. Want to come with me, Dick? I'll tell you where I'm going today, Dick. I'm going tomorrow, rather. He says, I'm going for chemotherapy. Want to come in a room with me, Dick, and watch young kids and watch people of all ages, sizes, colors, races, creeds. Watch them sitting there fighting the biggest battle of their life, hoping and praying that they could see the sun shine tomorrow. So please don't tell me about the toughness of getting up at 5:30. My God, it hit me. And it hit me to where I think of this, and I share it with you. There is no more day in your life more important than the day you are living. Take this day and be the best person you can be. Be the best person in pursuit of your dreams and goals that you can be today. Look in the mirror as I tell youngsters, you can con mama, you can con papa, you can con your coach, but you can't con the mirror. The mirror knows each and every day what you're doing with your life. You don't need an artificial high. You see, I don't drink, and I'm not knocking people that do. That's their prerogative. Drinking in moderation, well, that's fine. But I know people that go a step beyond. I remember this year the greatest moment in a student's life, if you are a Notre Dame student, was to be part of the Florida State Notre Dame football weekend. It was a weekend that was incredible. Number one against number two, the pep rally, the spirit. I can't imagine as a dad, who I love my girls dearly, the most precious things in my life, my wife, my daughters. And I'll never forget as I was there on a campus that weekend to share the moment with my girls, to be part of that festivity. A young girl who was a freshman, enjoying her first major weekend on the campus, walking back to her dorm when in came a car with 4 other students, and they had been drinking wildly, and they had driven wildly and out of control, and the girl's life was taken. Could you imagine that night when the phone rang to her parents, who were thinking that night their daughter was going to be part of one of the great activities at that university, and told that their daughter was just killed. And as they killed her, they got out of the car, and the guy went to his room, his dorm room. He fell asleep, and the police came in hours later, and he still was intoxicated, and he was drunk at the time, didn't know what he did, obviously very intelligent. He was a law student at a great university, but yet when drinking out of control does to a body, leads to many, many dilemmas and problems, leads to where this young man's now life is destroyed, where that girl's life has been destroyed, her family, because of poor decisions. And it's the same with the drug scene. You don't need to play that game to enjoy life. Enjoy life by getting high on life. Listen to the people that love you the most, to you young people here today, to your mom and dad, your guardian, your grandparent, people that care and give a damn. I know in my life I'd give anything today for my mom to be living, to share the things that I have today, the gorgeous home I live in, as opposed to the 3-room apartment I used to live in, a gorgeous home and cars and places I go, all because mom and dad, with their 5th grade education, taught me that in America, if you have drive and desire, and you have goals and dreams, and you make those dreams become a reality because of work ethic, my God, what can happen in your life? And I don't care, along the way I got critics, they'll bang the typewriter. And a guy will say, he talks too much, or he talks loud. No kidding, you gotta go to Harvard to figure that out. Well, you see, the bottom line they can't take away from me, and they can't take it away from me to the day I go, is my energy and excitement and enthusiasm for life. And that's the game we all play, the game of life, the greatest game of all. When it's all said and done and the curtain comes down, oh, you have memories like the 5 inducted here today, but it's their family. And it was so accurately said today. No greater place to be honored than in your home county. I know I was honored back in Jersey, and what a feeling it was. And I've received many an honor along the way, but that was so special because you're there among the people that care most, the people you grew up with. I want to close by simply saying this. Have pride in whatever you pursue in life. Michael Jordan now happens to live or lived in my subdivision just before he went down with the Birmingham team in baseball. I got a chance to share an hour and so with Michael sitting alone. And Michael said to me, Coach, you know, they're ripping me in Sports Illustrated, and they're ripping me across America saying I'm making a farce out of the game by trying to play baseball. But they're wrong. They're wrong saying I'm failing. Oh, how wrong they are. Because there is no such thing, he said, as failure when you try and give your best. He said, Coach, look at my hands. And I saw the blisters, and I seen the sweat, and I watched him at 6 in the morning get up and go to the batting cage. So big deal if he doesn't make it as a baseball player. But no one can ever accuse him of not giving 110% in pursuit of a goal or dream. And if each and every one of us here today could attack life that way and extend hand with love to one another. I told Rabbit as we sat there next to each other and we talked about black and white. I said, I woke up one day, my friend, and I was white. Had no damn say about it. He woke up one day and he was black and had no damn say about it. But we have a lot to say about the kind of people we are and the actions that we take and the attitudes we have and the feelings that we have. We control those moves and we control those motions. I want to close again by thanking each and every one of you for allowing me to share a moment with you. And remember, please watch ESPN and watch ABC, because right now I need a TO, baby. I got to get on a little plane, and if my man Steve was really class, he'd have a nice jet taking me out of here. No, he's got one of those little hoppers, baby, like a 5-seater and a double propeller, and my stomach is shaking and rattling and rolling. And now I got to go on tomorrow to do a game, the Magic Johnson Round Ball Classic, featuring all the best high school players in America. I ran into Magic on the elevator as I was coming off. He flew to Red Eye, and I'll tell you something about Magic. Commitment. He gave a commitment to these people that he would be part of this game before he signed on as a Laker coach. The Lakers are playing tonight, but Irvin Magic Johnson is speaking tonight, where I'm supposed to be, at a banquet for all the youngsters, and that's the kind of winner. Just like he was, I told him, and I share this all the time. Magic, as a high school player, you'd go down there just like I'm sure Johnny was the same, and we'd try to get there early as a recruiter, and we'd knock on the door. We said, Mrs. Johnson, we happen to be in the area. We left 5:30 in the morning Detroit. We're up here in Lansing. It's only like 6:50, 7 o'clock. Can we say hello to Magic before school starts? Because it'd be like a who's who after school with everybody and recruiters around him. We want to say hello to him. He's not here. Where is he? He's at the playground. Playground? It's 6:30 in the morning. And you go to the playground, snow and ice, and there's this kid bouncing the ball and bouncing the ball, and he's playing, and he's playing, and he's dreaming, and you're standing there, you're going, name of the Father, St. Jude, the miracle worker in the Catholic religion. Please, St. Jude, I've been a good guy this year. Let me get this kid. Please let me get him. I couldn't screw him up. He's so talented. He can make me coach of the year. He can make me a genius. Please, God, I'll do anything. I'll get on my knees. I'll beg and plead. Magic Johnson. Hey, Magic like Johnny, it just didn't happen one night. Oh, please make me a player. They go out and make it happen. But make your dreams, whether it's to be a lawyer, a doctor, whatever, a teacher. I've often said, I did a better service for the community as a 6th grade teacher, working with young people. The most underpaid people in America are teachers for the profession they have and the responsibility they have than us on TV, where I yell, T.O. baby, he's awesome, baby, and they give you mega dollars. Now I got video games coming out, 3 books with my name. I mean, it's incredible. And what am I doing? I'm screwing around about basketball. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's stealing money, but I like it, and I love it. Hey, God bless you. Blair County, you're Uno #1. Thank you.
Dick Vitale. I have one last request. Would the 5 inductees please stand? Thank you, Mr. Ward. As the last event of the evening, these are the people we honor. And I would ask you, one last time tonight, please honor the class of 1994, the 5 inductees into the Blair County Sports Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it, and we'll see you for lucky number 7. Thank you and good night.
Congratulations, Johnny. Good job.